Welcome to this evening's meeting. Unfortunately, Councillor Kitchen cannot be with us this evening, so in accordance with the Council's constitution, I will be in the chair for this meeting. Councillor Kitchen is recovering well at home, and the best wishes of the Council have been sent to him, and I'm sure we can add that all members' best wishes here tonight will be sent also. I'd like to welcome the Mayor's Chaplain, Reverend Pat Lodge, who will now lead us in prayer.
Thank you. Whether you yourself are a person of faith or not, I wonder if you've ever stopped to consider how much similarity there is between you, the Council, and the members of the local faith groups across Tameside. I believe that we all share the same heart at the centre of all that we both do, working to build communities and to serve and support those communities. For you, a determination to work for the people of this borough is probably the reason you stood for council in the first place. For me, as a Christian, and other communities of different faiths across the borough, we believe that loving our neighbour as ourselves is at the heart of our faith. Through our prayers and actions, we are supporting and serving the people of Tameside, as well as praying for you, our council, and for those in the many voluntary organisations that do such brilliant work around the borough. As we come to our prayers today, and bearing in mind the work that voluntary groups and statutory organisations are doing right at this moment to protect, feed, and help the homeless on our streets in this searing heat, let us pray that the sentiments that you, as our council, hold dear, together with the work and support of our faith communities and volunteers, continue to blend together for the benefit of this large community in which we live. Sovereign Lord, you have commanded us to love our neighbours as ourselves. Help our councillors to work together for the good of the people of this borough, recognising the problems and difficulties that so many are going through at the moment, and finding strategies to help them in ways that they need most. I pray, Lord, that you will be at the centre of all the decisions made this evening, and that those decisions will positively impact both local businesses, homes, schools, families, and the wider community. May each councillor bring their experience and expertise to the table, working together to resolve difficult issues and moving forward in a spirit of unity and peace. In our prayers this evening, we remember Sheila Ballagher. Sheila served this borough as a mayoress and deputy mayoress when she supported her husband Mike. Like him, she was a former member of this council, in her case representing Ashton Waterloo from 1999 to 2004. She showed great dedication in all three roles, and she will be missed by everyone. Bless our mayor and his consort as they meet with and support representatives of all the different areas of our community over this year, and the specific charities that they have chosen to support. I offer these prayers in the name of Jesus Christ, and I invite those of you who feel able to do so to join me in the traditional words of the prayer that Jesus taught us. Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our trespasses, as we forgive those that trespass against us. Lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever and ever. Amen.
Thank you, Reverend Lodge. Sorry about that. Apologies for absence. I've received apologies from the Chair of Council Business, Councillor Kitchen, and from Councillors Choksey, Goslin, Anne and Barry Holland, Jones, Pearce and Ricky. Are there any other apologies for absence? Thank you. We also have with us this evening Chief Superintendent Phil Davies, Tameside Police District Commander, who will be making a brief statement of introduction later in the meeting. And with that, we head to Civic Mayor's announcements.
So, Executive Leader, fellow members and colleagues. First off, I'd like to kind of introduce Pat Lodge, Reverend Pat Lodge, sorry. Personal friend for many years, gone through all my ups and downs of career and life. Been a personal friend for a long time. She was at St Michael's, St James's, basically the parish of the new of the Shepherd in Ashton. Retired, but still holds a licence and looks after us generally. So, having said that, unfortunately, yes, I have to start the meeting on a sad note, and I'm sure everyone here today will join me in extending condolences to Councillor Eleanor Wills, whose mother Sheila Ballagher died recently. So what I'd like us all to do, if we would, is stand and have 2 minutes silence. Thank you, everybody. So since the last council meeting in May, I'm happy to say that the Mayoress and I have undertaken a very busy schedule, but one that has also been very rewarding. The events have been many and varied. At the centre was the Queen's Platinum Jubilee, where I was extremely proud to help illuminate the NHS beacon at Tameside Hospital. This was the first one to be lit after Windsor, where the Queen started a chain that stretched across the UK and the Commonwealth. It's lovely to see the schools embracing the Jubilee, and we went to about 7 schools to help them enjoy it. Continuing with the Jubilee, I would like to congratulate 2 people who were named in the honours list. There was Betty Jones, who was awarded the MBE for her long years of service at St Damian's RC Science College in Ashton, and Vince Thompson, who got the British Empire Medal in recognition of his work with the food bank. In the same vein, I was pleased to attend the investiture where Roy Bate received the British Empire Medal awarded to him at New Year. The return of the citizens' ceremonies has been good to see too. It was also a great pleasure to be part of the much-missed events like the Whit Walks, Armed Forces Day and the Whit Friday Band Contest, which made a welcome return after being postponed since 2019 because of COVID. The Tameside Community Recovery Fund events were highly successful with more than £60,000 given out in grants, and I would like to thank the Community Safety for organising them so well. They were very enjoyable afternoons. There have also been Tameside College's graduation ceremony, unveiling of a street art piece at the Thai Martial Arts School, school arts award presentations, the Neighbourhood Watch Conference, Stalybridge Carnival, tour of Tameside and last weekend's Tameside Pride. We've also been to Willowwood, Well Dressing in Hyde, Tameside Hospital, tennis awards in Mottram, and had a joint fundraising event with the Mayor of Oldham. Oh, and part of the job is to become president of the local Scouts. Not confined to Tameside, we've also attended We Stand Together conference, Dragon Boat Race, Tameside Students' Plays at Oldham Coliseum, the Spanish Consulate's Medieval Music Concert, the Windrush Celebrations, Turning the Leaves Celebration and the Greater Manchester Wing 10th Anniversary. It has been a very enjoyable few months and I hope the Mayoress and I continue to represent the borough and meet yet more interesting people who do so much for the community. I would like to thank the Mayoress Anne for her support and of course the Deputy Mayor, Councillor Tafin Sharif. That brings me to the end of my announcements and I now hand over to the Chair of Business, Councillor Jack Miller.
Thank you. Back onto the agenda, agenda item 2, council minutes. Can I ask Councillor Cooney to move the minutes of the meetings of the council held on the 24th of May and 14th of June 2022. Is it about the accuracy of the record? Is it about the accuracy? Or is there a comment? Okay, Councillor Billington.
So, on the minutes of the last council AGM, which is included along with the last extraordinary meeting, I'd like to seek some clarification to the appointment of the executive and assistant cabinet members. Since the last meeting, there have been changes to titles of the executive, with one example being the first Deputy of Finance and Performance, which is now the first
Councillor
Deputy
Billington, sorry to interrupt. This isn't
Resources.
about the accuracy of the minutes. This is a question that can be raised at a different point. This is not the point
Do
to
with the
raise it.
minutes.
It's not the point to raise this point. This is not the time.
Do with the minutes.
You can do that, do that afterwards. We can move the minutes and then you can ask a question. Councillor Cooney.
Chair, can we move on to the minutes, please? 24th of May and the 14th of June.
Councillor Billington.
So, on the minutes of the last council AGM, which is included along with the last extraordinary meeting, I'd like to seek some clarification to the appointment of the executive and assistant cabinet members. Since the last meeting, there have been changes to titles of the executive, with one example being the First Deputy for Finance and Performance, which is now First Deputy for Finance, Resources and Transformation. On the agenda were there no titles for the assistant cabinet member or where they sit within the cabinet. Are they sitting under a cabinet member, like in the Brenda days? Or is it a return to form with the Roy Oldham days, where assistant cabinet members were given lesser briefs reporting to the executive leader? I ask this because there are titles on councillors' profile pages, but yet this is yet to be discussed or passed at council. For the benefit of members in this chamber, I would like confirmation of this by the next meeting, along with clarification of executive roles. For example, there are a lot of cabinet members spread out across the Grove Brief now. When this used to be just one person, we now have a cabinet member for planning, transport and connectivity, and we have another cabinet member for town centres, communities, corporate land and community assets, some of which overlaps the old environmental services brief. And then we have a business and employment cabinet member. Poor Councillor Ryan, who I notice who isn't here tonight, must have felt like an octopus doing all those things, along with the finance brief, or perhaps it might be the Nadine Dorries of Tameside Council. My point being, as we'll come to later exec cabinet, why is it that Councillor Sweeton, as cabinet member for business and employment, is responsible for the levelling up fund bids, when we also have a cabinet member that is responsible for town centres? A bit of clarity over structure is needed. And whilst I'm on the subject of appointments, what is going on with place scrutiny? I'm aware that Councillor Carty cancelled the last meeting as she wasn't able to make it. So that means there's been no scrutiny of the Place Directorate since March. Why is that allowed to happen when the new Children's Services Scrutiny Group has got up and running in record
Sorry to
time?
interrupt, excuse me.
Whereas the Place and External Relations Scrutiny has been in existence for over 10 years. I would also like clarification with what is going on.
You've had your opportunity to make the question regarding the accuracy of the minutes. This is now getting into a speech, which I appreciate the point you're trying to make, but this is not the time. This should be raised at a different area. So, thank you. Councillor Cooney, do you want to...
Have a future meeting, but I will clarify a number of the points. Is that under the old system, the previous system to this, fewer cabinet members actually covered and did cross into a number of the briefs. You would have found, if you looked at the directors, they were answering from me, Oliver and Leanne at different times and whatever. What we tried to do is narrow that down. Regarding Councillor Vimal-Choksky and Councillor Sweeton, I do believe, and I think that that's what Tameside wants, is that we look at the town centres as a separate issue, as an economic driver for the whole of Tameside, but not just Ashton, Hyde, or whatever. It's important that. So I have separated that because that's what the people of Tameside were asking. That's what we're going to give them. So we are looking at that. Then at the same time, we also have to look at, on a wider issue in these town centres, not necessarily about the town centre, about business and business growth in the whole of Tameside. And that will become under Councillor Sweeton. So there is a logic behind it. Because if you go on all the websites, all the Twitter sites, all the social media sites, and you're on there yourself, Councillor, is that they will complain about the town centres, what support they're doing, and that's what we tried to do this time. Now, I'm not going to tell you that it's going to be work straight away. I accept that, but do you know what? We have to move down that road and listen to the people and try and deliver that. So we will, and you know, there'll be some times that it doesn't happen. But I think that this way it will, and it'll be more accountable. But we cannot ignore at the heart of these places, of Tameside, are 9 towns. And we do need to recognise that, and it needs the time and energy of a cabinet member to deal with that. As I say, and I've got every faith in Councillor Sweeton covering a wider area, also about employment, youth employment, everything else, and bringing the businesses, and looking at trying to bring businesses. I'd hold my hands up, actually. If you went to Ashton Moss, which I see as a high-tech business park should be, there is a self-storage place on there. And you know, I'm amazed that that happened. It shouldn't have been, but it did. You know, people coming into Tameside, there's a business park there, should have been links with the motorway, links with the railway stations, tram links, everything else around it that you could really want to make it a high-tech business park. And we got a business on there that will employ on about 4 people. Not much skills, no disrespect to them, but it doesn't look about future employment. So I believe that Dave Sweeton will be the person that looks at that. But I don't think you disagree. We do need to talk about the towns as well as a separate employment entity. So, and under the other system, we had fewer members. You had to cover more than one director in that sense. So, and the other points, Councillor Billington, we'll give you more of them if I miss some today. But if you write to me, and I'll come back and speak to it, I can't do them off the top of my head here now, but I will give you any points that you raise, yes. But you understand it is important. Now, regarding Councillor Carty's one, she was away, to be fair. I also wanted more training for the new chairs of the scrutiny. I do think that we need to drill down more in that case, because they've got to be more effective. They have to be. And so I wanted the chairs in and the deputies. And you see that we've got the new children's services one, and that's important. That so yeah. I came into office on the 24th. I didn't have much time to set up everything else till after then. So if you give us a little bit of time, we'll do that. But it's not of any spite. It's not trying. There's no magic trickery behind it. It's just that we didn't have the time from the 24th. But I am trying, and you'll find that I'm more transparent and open with anything. So I don't have a problem with that. But give us that little bit of time, I ask. I do want to change the area meetings. I've not had time to do that. I want to get back to the district assemblies. I do think that the public should be able to challenge us. I do think the public should be able to talk to the police, and I don't think you'd disagree. They were a good forum. Some areas it wasn't good, but we need to look at that. I'm not going to say it's going to be the same way, but I want the businesses at them forums. I want the rest of the community there, because if it's going to work in Staley Bridge, it will be Staley Bridge members. It doesn't matter whether you're Conservative, Labour, Tory, Lib Dem or whatever. But as a collective, you've got the same at heart, is to make Staley Bridge in the right direction. Exactly the same in Hyde, Denton, Droylsden, Mosley, Duckingfield, and I hope I've not missed that. I will have Longdendale or whatever. I'm quite sure I may have missed it, but not on purpose. But I do think Ashton, sorry, no, yeah, Ashton. But I do believe it's got to be the right way. And you're going to criticise us at times. I accept that. That's, you know, it's adversarial. We are in the politics, but some things, because I didn't have that time, I didn't come into office till the 24th. I'm still answering stuff before then, but I'm not critical of anyone. That's how the system works. We had the full council then. I'd have liked a bit more time prior to that to have set up that system and talk to them. I am in conversation with your leader themselves. We're meeting regular, so your party will be informed of what we're doing. More importantly, this council will get that, and you'll have other forums where you can raise that as well. So it's not about trying to do anything underhand.
Thank you. The minutes have been moved. Councillor Buckingham, I'll just say, for future reference, if you do have a question like that, that can be raised in agenda item. It is today 11, which is questions under standing orders. So for future reference, for anything like that from a previous event, if you could please go by that route rather than when we're trying to improve the accuracy of the minutes. But thank you, Councillor Cooney, for answering those questions. Agenda item 3, declarations of interest. I've received none. None from the floor. Agenda item 4, communications and announcements. Can I ask Councillor Cooney to make an announcement?
I know it's well, so I won't be too long on this, Chair. Members and officers of the Council, I want to take the opportunity tonight to update you on some of the big developments that have taken place in Tameside over the last few weeks. Last weekend I had the privilege of taking part in Tameside Pride event. Whilst lockdown and the coronavirus pandemic meant that the previous two Tameside Prides took place online, this year gave residents the chance to return to Cheetham Park in Staley Bridge and for a day of live entertainment, fairground rides, food and drink. And I just want to take, it's not in here, but I do want to take the time to thank Charlotte. Charlotte took me round, introduced me to the stall holders, the stalls and the sponsors, and it's Charlotte's first year as chair of the Pride Committee, and really did an excellent job. As always with big events like this, it is the work that took place behind the scenes for months before that makes it possible. And I would like to thank everybody involved in that process, especially local businesses and organisations that offered their support. Not only did we once again celebrate the importance of diversity, equality and tolerance in Tameside, we also gave people a great day out at the height of the summer. I had to go and buy a pair of shorts and a t-shirt from Tesco's on the way. I'd been out leafleting in the morning, and a pair of two-type shoes. But anyway, I got on the stage. I've got to say the dancing troupe that were there was excellent. If anyone sees them, they were excellent. Of course, when next year's Pride event rolls around, many more residents will be able to take advantage of the cheap public transport to get there and back. While making buses more affordable has always been a major plank of our city region's ambition to take back control of public transport, the Mayor of Greater Manchester has now announced the ambition to make this happen a year ahead of schedule. This means that, subject to agreement by the bus companies, residents in Tameside and the Greater Manchester will pay no more than £2 for a single adult ticket and £1 for a single child ticket, or £5 for a day ticket whenever you are in Greater Manchester, wherever you are in Greater Manchester after September. As the country struggles with both unprecedented cost of living crisis and the record-breaking temperatures brought about by climate change, cheaper buses will, for all, make the pound in our residents' pockets go further and help us to protect our share of the environment. Additionally, following work with the Poverty Truth Commission, we are working to create a number of new one-stop shops, starting with Tameside 1. Places people can go for support with a range of issues including debt, benefit, housing, general customer service, as well as mental health, employment and training. We have listened to what our residents have been telling us and what they want. And so we created an easy, accessible, friendly, supportive place where people can go when they are struggling with any issues. The start of July saw the end of an era of Ian Saxon. The art director of Place hung up his high-vis jacket after starting as a trainee in the environmental health 39 years ago. Ian's career in Tameside took him to services as diverse as public protection, waste, bereavement, highways, green space, homelessness, youth, culture, community safety. It's no exaggeration to say that there is not a single part of the local authority he was not involved in or influenced at one point or another. Ian's steady hand was always at the tiller to provide leadership during the pioneering council projects and major incidents involved, including fire and flood. And in between all this, he even found time to showcase our work to the public as part of the BBC's called the Council Programme, which I think you can still get on YouTube. Note that retirement is slowing Ian down. In fact, as we speak, he is currently cycling from Tameside to Rome to raise money for Willow Wood Hospice. And, you know, that's excellent, isn't it? Shows you the type of person he is. On behalf of us all, I want to thank Ian for his decades of unwavering service to Tameside and its residents. Last but by no means least, I'm delighted to welcome Phil Davis to the Council tonight as the new District Commander for Tameside. He is the face of Greater Manchester Police efforts to make our borough safe and a welcoming place for all. While I'll let Phil speak for himself, I want to finish off by giving him a warm welcome from Tameside and to let him know that I look forward to working with him in the weeks, months and hopefully years ahead. So I'll hand it over to you, Phil. What I just say, Phil has only just started, so he's not going to take questions tonight, but he will come back and we'll have a meeting with the councillors themselves. I think you've only been in office a week, is it, Phil, ahead of Tameside? Yeah. So, Phil, please.
That's very kind of you to spare me the questions on my second week. Please forgive my lack of tunic tonight, councillors. It's obviously a very warm day. I will do my best in a very short period of time just to introduce myself, a little bit about my background and a very brief description of my priorities, and then I will look forward to obviously coming back in future occasions to ask the questions you have of me. So my name is Phil Davis. I have 25 years policing experience, the last 4 of which have been at the Chief Superintendent rank in a headquarters function. I am the son of Baptist ministries, son of Baptist missionaries. I grew up in East Africa and I spent my early years involved in the communities in relation to my parents' work in managing famine aid over in Ethiopia and Kenya. In my teenage years, I settled in North Lincolnshire, went to university and joined Homicide Police, of which I spent 12 happy years there, primarily in the criminal investigation department within that force before moving here 12 years ago to be part of the G&P family. As a superintendent, I have worked at Bolton District, at Trafford District, and I've been the airport commander in specialist operations. And I was absolutely delighted when the Chief Constable Stephen Watson spoke to me a few weeks ago and asked me to join this community. I'm very much looking forward to working with you all. My priorities in the short term will be to support the force in our disengagement from Her Majesty's inspectors, of which I'm sure you're all aware of in relation to the focus nationally on G&P's performance. We are making excellent progress in relation to that task, and we are hopeful of disengagement later in the year provided we continue on our trajectory of good performance in core business areas. This is about keeping people safe and responding to calls in the right time, and obviously investigating the crimes that are placed in front of us. Longer term, I'm very much interested in strong partnership working with my officers. I'm a holist. I believe that the whole is greater than the sum of its parts, and that is no more so than with police work. So I will be particularly interested in working with all of you and with working the partners in relation to making Tafeside a safer, more prosperous place. And I will take a lot more questions on all of those topics next time I come and address you. Thank you.
Thank you. Excuse me, Chief Superintendent. Before I ask Councillor Feely to make an announcement, can I thank Chief Superintendent Davies for his time, as he's now leaving us to get back to work. Thank you. Councillor Feely.
Chair. In summer 2020, here at the Council, we worked with the Tameside Pupil Referral Unit to redesign the head teacher role and recruited Anthony Benedict to the post in November 2020. I'm delighted to let everybody know that the Tameside Pupil Referral Unit underwent a full Ofsted inspection in May this year, 2022, and we moved from out of requires improvement into good. Ofsted commented, teachers have good subject knowledge, behaviour is managed well, the standout feature is relationships and a culture of support and modelling by staff of high expectations. This improvement for the PRU is part of a wider trend of improvement for our schools. I'd like to take this opportunity to congratulate Anthony and all the staff at the PRU. But I'd also like to say thank you to all our school leaders, teachers and teaching assistants and governors for all that they do and what they do so well, and particularly the challenges that they have faced and continue to face. Thank you.
Thank you. Agenda item 5, Council's big conversation. There are no questions. Agenda item 6, meeting of the Executive Cabinet. Can I ask Councillor Cooney to move the minutes of the meeting of the Executive Cabinet held on the 22nd of June 2022?
Chair, I'll move them.
Thank you. Councillor, a second?
Chair, I'll second those.
Thank you. Any questions or comments? Councillor Sweeton.
I rise on item 11 on the Cabinet minutes, which is the levelling up funding bids. The councillors that are most interested, I contacted late last week in Denton and Staley Bridge as a matter of courtesy and to keep them informed of the fact that I signed the exec decision off, and it was intended to be placed with the government by the 6th of July. Unfortunately, I was told that the portal, the electronic doorway, if you like, wasn't opened. It was delayed by the government, which feared me, but the officers actually said, no, this is usual with things of this scope and this magnitude. And I did tell all the members this as a matter of interest. Now, I am told that on Friday evening, that portal was opened. So on the 28th of this month, Tameside will now be submitting those two bids. Just shy of 20 million for Staley Bridge and just over 16 million for Denton. Members will also note that an email has gone out that inviting members of those particular towns to join and actually see the bids from our economic development. So what my intention is to keep everybody involved, bring everybody forward. And this is a massive opportunity for Tameside. £20 million and £16.5 million is massive. It will enable a lot of progress. So we really need to keep on our game. We really need the Conservatives any possible influence, sway we've got to try and deliver that programme of investment would be greatly appreciated, because this is massive. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Colborne, please.
Item 6, Executive Cabinet, June 17 on Garden Village. The 2021 consensus data shows us that the estimations for household growth were too high from the 2014 consensus all around Greater Manchester, including Tameside. Over the coming months, the Office for National Statistics will use the census data to recalibrate their household projections, and hopefully this information will lead to a long-awaited change to the source data required by the government standard methodology, which has clearly resulted in local authorities sacrificing vital greenbelt land that government states as a great importance in the national planning policy framework, that I'll quote, "The government attaches significant importance to greenbelt. The fundamental aim of greenbelt policy is to prevent urban sprawl by keeping land permanently open. The essential characteristics of greenbelts are their openness and their permanence. We need to relook at these figures again and use a brownfield site first policy. In 2016, our MP quoted that there are sufficient brownfield sites to build 8,000 homes in Tameside, and that there are sites which aren't brownfield now but will become so in the next 20 years. There are brownfield land funds that can be applied for. How long is Godley Green development expected to take to build until it is fully completed, which would be approximately around the same time? In the meeting of the Exec Cabinet, you mentioned that the Council resolved that it would begin the process of gathering the evidence required to support the development of a compulsory purchase order, a CPO, for this site. CPOs, I believe, are very costly, and you've also advertised back in May for a senior destination marketing and communications officer dealing with all things Godley Green Garden Village. The proposals haven't yet gone through the planning review. How are the Council expected to see a return for all this money being spent at a time when the Council's finances are stretched and we face continual increase in our council tax? Is this really a good use of taxpayers' money? What if the whole scheme gets rejected by the Secretary of State? I've lobbied each housing minister over the years, and the last reply I had was in June 2022, and I quote, "As the committee date has not been fixed, it is for you to keep in touch with the Council to find out when it will be considered by the committee, and should you wish to submit a calling request at that time to the levelling up government. Should the Council then resolve to grant planning permission a committee, the Secretary of State would then consider the case for calling. Perhaps now is the time for a rethink of the whole scheme. I'd be doing a great disservice to my residents if I didn't ask this question. Why don't we just knock this on the head and look at other ways, maybe cross-party, to be able to reach the goal of more homes in Tameside? Nobody is saying that we don't need more houses, we do, but they need to be the right houses and in the right place. The government talk about levelling up. How are executive homes levelling up? The old Hyde Library building would have been excellent if the building had been renovated into flats instead of left to rot and ruin. There are more opportunities within Hyde and the Borough of Tameside to reach the goal of these houses. And the council leader, in his interview with the Tameside Correspondent published on the 30th of May, said that opposition is for genuine reasons, acknowledging some of the issues and being clear that they need resolution.
Sorry to interrupt, Councillor Colwell. Can you get to your question, please? Thank you.
So where are the resolutions? Where is the discussion on these issues that matter to local residents? After reading the article, I emailed the leader directly, asking for a meeting. Today, I had no response. Godley residents overwhelmingly said no to Godley Green Garden Village, and you saw that in over 3,500 objections returned, with only a few in favour, and you also saw for the first time in over 40 years when Godley residents voted for a Conservative councillor.
Councillor Colwell, in summary, can you just succinctly put your question to the...
Being that the interview in the Tameside Correspondent...
What minute of the Council Executive Cabinet is that referring to?
I said it at the start, sorry. It's the Godley Green Garden Village. Number 17.
Thank you.
Can you just remind us what the question was of me?
I was talking about the interview that you did with the correspondent, and I've been in touch with you. I've not heard back from you, but you was also open to discussing with opposition. This was all part of your interview in the correspondent.
Well, I apologise if I've not been back to you. I'm surprised at that. Can you resend that?
Yeah.
I'm not... and actually, the minute is about development partners, actually. Godly Green, that minute. But I will answer you because, and as I've said...
Sorry to interrupt, Councillor Cooney. There's a number of other questions. Would you like me to take them first, or would you like to answer this one now?
Is that what I have said, and I will always say that as a person who has constantly protested throughout my life, is that people don't protest because they want to, they have issues. And it is important that we listen and take them issues on board. I'm not saying we'll always agree, but you can't ignore them. And as a person who stood outside many parliamentary offices with about 6 people lobbying the government, doesn't matter whether it be Labour or whatever, you know, if you're not going to do that, then it'll just go ahead. So I welcome the protest and the objections, not really the protest, the objections, and we have to take them on board. That actually isn't, that minute isn't about what you've said. I'm surprised if I haven't responded to you, because most people tell you I do respond. So I'll check that way. If you resend the original ones, because you'll have them, and then we'll get a response to you. Okay?
Councillor Dickinson.
I'm a little confused that you keep saying, where's the question, where's the question? I've been on council a long time, and at council meetings, when we're speaking on an item, it's either comments or questions. So I don't understand why it has to be a question.
The councillor started by saying she had a question, but the prose is quite long.
Okay. So, Chair, if I may, I would like to comment on the levelling up fund bids for Stalybridge and Denton, passed at Executive Cabinet meeting on the 22nd of June. Makes disappointing reading in the fact they aren't ambitious enough to deliver on the priorities for the people of this borough. I just want to say I will always champion extra money for regeneration of this borough, and what benefits one town trickles down to benefit the whole of the borough. The extra revenues brought in through additional council tax and business rates receipts should be reinvested to fund frontline services and be reinvested into regenerating our towns across the borough. The purpose of the Levelling Up Fund is to mainly regenerate areas and deliver local jobs. People will be asking just where is the delivery of creating new jobs and attracting new businesses in this report? And what is it doing to regenerate our towns that have been neglected by this council for over the past 45 years? Across both of the bids for Stalybridge and Denton, £20.5 million of the proposed £40 million budget is to be spent on public realm works and active travel. Just why is this council requesting grants for maintaining pavements and street furniture? This is one of the basic services that councils must provide. I understand that budgets are squeezed, but again, why aren't we utilising Section 106 contributions from property developers to achieve this? In a recent report from the Strategic Land Group, Tameside Council had one of the lowest pots for Section 106 monies at £930,000, whilst only spending £14,000 of that money. And this council has had a policy of not collecting Section 106 monies from developers in the past, especially when council-owned land has been sold off to developers. On active travel, this is code for more cycle lanes. I had hoped that when the former lycra-clad chief executive departed, we'd start to get in the real world. Obviously not. People don't prioritise cycling, not because it isn't safe to do so, but because the majority of Tameside residents work outside the borough, and the majority of people living in Stalybridge would find it difficult to cycle to Manchester City Centre, Stockport or Trafford Park, where there's major hubs of employment. And just who will appreciate more cycle lanes along the A57 and Crown Point? They certainly aren't using them on Park Parade in Ashton. Crown Point is already congested, Adding cycle lanes won't encourage people to drop the family car for a run to Nando's or Sports Direct. It would only put people off from shopping in Denton. The Mayor, Andy Burnham, has received over £1 billion for improving public transport in Greater Manchester, with him opting to spend that on improving the bus network and introducing cycle lanes. So why aren't we utilising money from that rather than using large chunks of cash from the Levelling Up fund bids that could be better spent elsewhere? But is it a priority for residents? Back in 2018, people in Stalybridge and across the borough participated in a consultation for the Stalybridge Town Centre Challenge. Only 9.4% of residents asked for improved and new cycle lanes. Contrast that to the 72% that supported reinventing the Market Hall. On the Market Hall, £1.5 million of the bid is to be spent on fixing the Civic Hall roof. This is after receiving £1 million as part of the Heritage Action Zone, which was meant to fix the roof and again deliver public realm works for Market Street. The roof of the Civic Hall has already gone £1.1 million over budget, and the cost continues to rise due to the inefficiency of the LEP. Over budget and over schedule, the roof of the Civic Hall should have been fixed by now. The Council also has previously allocated £50,000 for a feasibility study into the use of the Civic Hall back in 2020. But where are we with it? Another failure of the LEP. Now, I can't say I know much about Denton, so I'll pass on commenting on the specifics. But of the Stalybridge Levelling Up Fund bid, of the £20 million bid, £9.2 million is to be spent on the remediation and reprovision of existing surface car parking on brownfield land. Stalybridge councillors will be familiar with this as the Castle Street car park site. Castle Street car park has remained in an unsuitable state for some years after it was originally intended to be phase 3 of the Urban Splash development. I know through conversations with officers that the site is intended for residential use, and I fully support this. Stalybridge needs better parking, and estimations for a temporary repair is pegged at over £1 million. But I cannot support spending over £1 million on something that is only a temporary fix. What we should seek to do is attract high-end developer to complement the area with additional housing and then use the Section 106 monies to build a permanent multi-storey car park. I will agree that money should be spent on refurbishing Astley, Cheetham Gallery and Library. It's long overdue. And I think if more was done to commercialise the space, offering people to pop in for a coffee, read a book and have some flexible working space, then it would be a great success. So to conclude, where are the jobs? Where are we delivering on the people's priorities for this borough? Where is the ambition? In Stockport, we have seen monies used to extend the platforms and refurbish Cheadle train station, improve links with retail and a new business park. In Oldham and Glossop, they're using their grant money to build new food halls. My worry is, the longer this council procrastinates, the more we fall behind the curve. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Reid, did you wish to speak?
Thank you, Chair. Also on the Levelling Up minute as well. Councillor Billington chooses to frame the Denton bid around cycling and active travel, but it's actually about making the town centre more accessible and desirable for pedestrians. The cycling part is more of a secondary, because actually Denton is unique in the fact that in the past 2 years we've seen an unprecedented number of local businesses open. So we want to encourage that. It's the twilight economy. It's about getting people shopping in Denton as well as dining in Denton. So we very much support the bid and thank the officers for all the work to make Denton more friendly for pedestrians, so people stop and shop and don't just drive through to Crown Point North. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Sweeton.
Right to bring this up. I've had a colleague of mine that have put similar concerns in. But let me tell you this. This is a true... All levelling up bids across the country, across England, are almost two-pronged. You would never believe that you get public realm, you get accessibility, you get all these real hard things, and somehow or other, officers and town centre planners can come up with a figure. And it's that figure that attracts government. That's what they're looking at. The bottom line, when you put all these things together, what does it get? Can we support that bid? Now that's where we are, Councillor Billington. We have put this together with consultation, with looking at the strategic objectives of the town, talking with people and looking at what the government wants. And what we try and do is dovetail those requirements to what we know can be successful. Now those two bids are going in, just like Councillor Reid says. In Denton, they're slightly different priorities than Staley Bridge. But ultimately, when you talk about jobs, a working, thriving, successful town centre with people living, an increasing footfall, brings those jobs. You know it, I know it, but it's getting to the point where we can deliver that. So this is the first stage. On the 28th, our bid goes in. That will be analysed together with Denton's and Staley Bridges, and there'll be a decision in the autumn whether we've got that. Second phase kicks in then, and that is when we will get together, the Denton councillors, the Staley Bridge councillors, and we can shape that bid, knowing our knowledge of the town, our people, the problems, our aspirations. That's the point we shape. If we got involved now, that figure that somehow is generated out of all this wouldn't meet the threshold for the government to say, let's give 20 million, let's give 16.5 million. That's where we are. Let's be very clear. Our opportunity to actually drill down and shape what the public realm looks like, what the town centre, what the cultural quarter looks like, isn't for now. It is for when they say, green light, you shape it. That's where we are. But until then, let's support these bids so that we can deliver the growth in Denton and deliver the growth in Staley Bridge, because, like Councillor Cooney says, we have waited and waited for this. This is our opportunity to bring those sites that you know and I know to market and get them done.
Thank you. Councillor Jackson, please.
Got that? Yeah, okay. Sorry, thank you, Chair. I'd just like to endorse what Councillor Sweeton has said. I'm not going to refuse £20 million into Staley Bridge, and I'm sure no councillor in this chamber would refuse an opportunity to actually get £20 million to spend in their town. So I welcome this Levelling Up Fund. We're at the early stages. We haven't got it yet. The first bid was refused, so we've gone again. And I do like to thank, and I would like to thank the officers that have worked behind the scenes to put this bid together. It hasn't just been put on the back of a cigarette packet. They've spent endless hours putting a bid together to meet a criteria. And with regards to what Councillor Reid has said, with regards to the cycling scheme, it is a walking and cycling scheme that we are trying to introduce to protect pedestrians, and it is all about the public realm and showcasing our town centres for what they are. So I'd just like to come back on that to Councillor Billington, but I do welcome this bid. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. Councillor Cooney.
Thanks for the support, Councillor Billington. Do you know the criteria for the LEP is drawn up by the government, and we bid to the government as well. And let's hope that the government gives it as that. We are successful to the two towns we've indicated, as Councillor Sweeton said. So if we got criticism, I agree with you. We shouldn't be bidding for money we need for our town centres. It should be given to us. Regarding the Staley Bridge roof, it wasn't the LEP. It wasn't the LEP at all. And we had that discussion the other day at the meeting. It wasn't the LEP. And that roof now was pulled. The company that were going to do it won't be doing it now because it's been delayed. The price that they had for that, and anyone who knows the construction industry at the moment, if you don't take it when someone offers it you, it's not going to come in at the same price. So the price of that roof, it was delayed because of, for whatever reason, but the company that gave us a price for that has walked away, and it it was only a scoping of what needed to be done, actually, that. So we hadn't actually got into great detail, but it wasn't the LEP. But understand something about the LEP, because I was here when it was drawn up, and Councillor Grantham was involved with it as well. The LEP is no different than the STAR framework agreement or whatever. It's a body that does work for us and takes that responsibility and risk. Because when we did this before, and I was on education and I picked up a load of issues we had, I think we might still be in court, Sandra, with some of them, over litigation, what they did, what they didn't do, what we said we wanted, what we didn't get. And then we moved to the LEP and we built buildings for the future, and a host of other developments have gone on. The LEP does what we ask it to do. It does no more than that. It doesn't tell us what it needs to be done. It's no different than we go to the STAR or we have a framework agreement or anything else. So understand that's all the LEP is. It does nothing else other than that. The shame about the roof on Staley Bridge, and I do need, and I've spoke to the Staley Bridge councillors, and of all parties can come, if we can get on that roof, whether it's safe, I don't know. But we do need to look at it, because it is important. It is a civic building. The civic hall, you know, it's never going to have certain things done in it. It's not going to hold weddings, whatever, but it's a cracking civic hall, and it can be used commercially. So it's important, instead of that we have an argument here about what we did do, didn't do, whatever, at the same time while we're having that discussion and going on and on, the price of that goes dearer and dearer. We don't get, I was just sat in a meeting last week, and what we learned was we get about 5% of our funding now directly, and the rest of it comes in one way or another through grants. It's an historic building, and it warrants that roof repairing. Once we do that, we can look at the commercial value of that. Regarding other developments in Staley Bridge, and you said about prestigious houses and everything else, I wouldn't disagree. We need, at the end of the day, higher-end houses. We bring in, I think 70% of our properties are in the A and the B stand. So in Trafford, I'm led to believe, I might be wrong, someone contradict me. I know you was up there, Councillor Billington, sometime. I think if they put 1%, they get about 5 million. We put 1% on a council tax, we get 1 million. You know, something thereabouts. So you can see the difference. And so we do need, in a sense, houses that bring in more revenue to us at the higher end. But as a Labour councillor, a Labour leader, my passion would be to build more social housing. Because what you've got is a crisis at the moment. You know, people can ill afford, but rents are affordable. They're not affordable to most people. And the only way you're going to drive that down and help people financially is to build social housing. We will build social housing when, it doesn't matter which the government is, when that government gives us the proper grant, and then that will drive the rents down. They'll put money in people's pockets and they can spend. That's important to any economy, that people have some spending cash. So affordable homes, and I'll tell you an example, affordable rent is 70% of a commercial rent. A social rent is 40% of a commercial rent. So it shows you the difference, and we lack that. I agree. So there needs to be passion for both. We need to have some at the high end, but more importantly, and you'll have all dealt with some people, they can't get a house anywhere, they're not being built. Andrew Neil asked Liz Truss, I've got a WhatsApp someone sent to me, and of the pledge to build 250,000 social housing or affordable housing in the 5 years, they said, and he asked her how many she built. She said, I can't recollect, actually. He said, oh, it's not hard to recollect. He said, you built zero. Zero, that's how many you built. So, yeah, the demand, the house numbers, and going back to touching on one of the colleagues earlier, do we have to build these houses? Yeah, the figure that we've been set is set by this government. So we have to build houses. We have to build them where we can. And if we can build them on all the brownfield sites, and I welcome that. No one's going to dispute that at all. No one's going to dispute that at all. But we've also got to recognise that the brownfield sites, as Councillor Sweeter was saying and Councillor Billington was saying earlier, we need to have businesses. So we can't put every single house that we can on a brownfield site at the expense of trying to create industrial areas. I think no one would disagree with that. So there has to be a balance between that. We will build everything on a brownfield site where we can, and we will also make sure we retain the industrial brownfield sites for what they are to create them jobs. But as I say, on the Staley Bridge side, I welcome the bid. I mean, it's a shame that, you know what I mean, we're in with a load for that, the levelling up. There's a change of Prime Minister. So whether the Levelling Up Fund is still there after it, I've not got the slightest idea. I did read and listen to it that they're giving that much. I'm getting a tax cut by the day. Anyone who's working is getting a tax cut by the day by some of those who are standing. That's not reality, is it? It's not reality. Whether they then decide that they're going to cut back on the Levelling Up, well, we'll be all disappointed because that's the only way we're getting money at the moment through the central government into our towns, and it's a bit of a disappointment. So I do hope that you lobby with us that the Levelling Up Fund remains in place and that we get across the board support for the Levelling Up bids both in Denton and in Staley Bridge. So hopefully I've answered. I'm quite sure you'll have said that I've not answered everything, but I've tried to. The roof in Staley Bridge is an economic driver. I get it, because it will open the hall and that will invite people in. And once you start doing that, then more people walk past, and as people walk past, they spend money. And I get that, and it's important. The problem is, we've left it too long, but it was nothing to do with the let. Believe me, the company that had it are not going to do it anywhere near the price that we have. And I sit on many different boards, and you'll know that. You tell them the price I've got. Normally, you can get a fixed price for 12 months. You're lucky now if you get it for 3 months. You're lucky if you can get the material within the 3 months. That's one of the biggest problems as well. So that's where we are. And as I say, David is right. Councillor Reid is spot on. Regarding cycling, I'm not a cyclist. Anyone will tell you, I do fall off quite often. And I have done the ex-triathlon in Staley Bridge, and pity as I cycled all the way to the top of the hill and my chain broke, so I had to walk down, or my brakes broke, sorry. So, and I get it. There's got to be a balance between, and I'm looking at the Ashton members and say, oh, hang on a minute, don't close off a street just because people need to cycle. Do you know what I mean? Because it could, and so I think we've got to go back and talk to them. I don't disagree, but no one's going to disagree that reducing the carbon by alternative travels, be it better public transport, as we're saying, or by cycling or whatever, but it can only be part of it. But you can't do that at the economic value to some of the areas. And I accept that. You're not going to cycle from Staley Bridge to work in Manchester. I accept that totally. No matter how many cycles, I wouldn't do that. As I say, I wouldn't do that anyway because I don't cycle too well. We are a council, it seems, that a lot of officers like to cycle. Yeah, I accept that. And, you know, it's good. It's good for your health. It's good for the borough and everything else. But I do think we need to look at some of the cyclings. Yes.
Thank you, Councillor Cooney. Can I ask that those minutes are received? Thank you. Agenda item 7, Clean Air Plan update. And can I ask Councillor Ward to move the recommendations?
Thank you, Chair. This report sets out the case for the new Greater Manchester Clean Air Plan. The government instructed many local authorities across the UK to take quick action to reduce the harmful nitrogen dioxide levels. We have since been working with the authorities in Greater Manchester to develop a clean air plan. This features a package of measures to deliver nitrogen dioxide reductions to within legal limits within the shortest possible time and by 2026 at the latest. The original GM Clean Air Plan, agreed in summer 2021, has been kept under constant review by the Greater Manchester authorities. This showed it could cause businesses and residents financial hardship due to the impact of the pandemic, supply chain issues and the cost of living crisis. This new plan aims to be fair to businesses and residents. Rather than imposing daily charges, it will use the 120 million of green air funding awarded by the government to invest in vehicles upgrades and zero emission buses. Our officers will also continue to meet with the government representatives to address the exceedance of the A557 and the A628 through Hollingworth and Mottram, which is managed by National Highways. Any engagement would be undertaken with businesses and trade representatives to inform the ongoing plan. We're also asking the government to regulate that all private hire journeys within the Greater Manchester must be undertaken by a driver and vehicle that are both licensed by one of the 10 GM local authorities. This would prevent local licensing standards and provide stronger tools to improve emission standards. I ask you to approve the recommendations so we can move forward in tackling harmful pollution from vehicles without causing financial hardship. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you. I note Councillor Boyle was due to second this motion, however, she's not in attendance tonight, so could I ask someone to second? Thank you. There's no questions. Can I ask that this report is received? Thank you. Agenda item 8, Christmas lighting scheme. Can I ask Councillor Cooney to move the recommendations?
Chair, I'll move. Councillor Choksky is on holiday at the moment, so I'll move that, Chair.
Can I ask Councillor Patel to second the motion? Councillor Alam.
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to welcome the funding in Hyde, which is the most needed. I also would like to highlight the success of the last year's Lantern Parade, where people are still talking about it. So, yeah, thank you.
Thank you. There's no further comments. Can I ask that the motion is agreed? Thank you. Agenda item 9, Senior Staffing Panel. Can I ask Councillor Cooney to move the recommendation? And can I ask the motion seconded? Thank you. Okay. Can I ask if the motion is agreed? Agenda item 10, membership of council bodies. Can I ask Councillor Cooney to move the motion?
I'll move that, Chair. There's a list on everyone's table. The only one we're not replacing at the moment, sorry, it's Councillor Jackson will come off the education attainment, but we haven't got a replacement there for that. We'll sort of come back to the next meeting with that, Chair.
Thank you. Can I ask Councillor Fairfield to second? Thank you. Can I ask the motion is agreed?
So, just to continue from before, from what I was saying, I know that Councillor Cooney touched on this. I'd also like clarification what is going on with neighbourhood forums. Whilst I doubt any...
Councillor Billington, is this relevant to the membership of council bodies as identified on the separate sheet on your paper? Is your question relevant to the changes that are on this piece of paper that's on your desk? But the neighbourhood forums are on this list. I would recommend that you contact Councillor Cooney or raise it at the next meeting. Agenda item 11, questions on the standing order 17.2. There are no questions. Agenda item 12, urgent items. There are no urgent items, and that concludes the meeting. Can I ask Democratic Services to please suspend the webcast? Thank you.